Hi everyone, welcome to the Optimal Athlete episode 5. As usual, this content has the goal to provide as much value as possible in the less amount of time. But just before we start, I want to thank the sponsor that make this content possible and my cycling career possible. Perfect Sport, Laser Helmet, Big Bang 360, Maison Bonneville, Toyota Saint-Eustache, Pirelli Cycling, Vision, FSA, Shimano, Plaisir Gastronomique, Rule 28, DT Swiss, Laboratoire Riva, and Felt. A small little thing before we start. I apologize for not having the Laboratoire Riva hat and the Felt United jersey. I'm deep in the wood here in Quebec and I traveled super light and forgot the hat and the jersey. So without wasting any time, let's jump straight into it. So as usual, this week the content will be separated into 5 parts. So we're gonna start by my race report of Rasputitsa Dirt, one of the biggest gravel race on the East Coast. Then I'm gonna follow it up with this week energy tip. So we're gonna talk about how to eat enough. Then we're gonna go to the book suggestion of the week. This week we're gonna talk about The Daily Laws by Robert Greene. Then I'm gonna highlight my bike from Belgian Waffle Ride, California. I was super happy with my race setup, so I wanted to share it with you. And then we're gonna end it by a mindset training that will help us approach situation as objectively as possible to respond optimally. So without wasting any time, let's jump straight into it. So this week's race report is Rasputitsa Dirt. Like I said, it's one of the biggest races on the East Coast. It's a very short one, so it's only 90K. So the special thing about this day of training is that I did the race, so I did the 90K race, and then I finished the training by a big loop around J-Peak, and overall it gave me a 6-hour day, so a perfect day to prepare for the longer gravel race that I'm more used to. So how did the race played out? As a warning, I would say Rasputitsa is known for its really challenging condition because it happens in April, and in April in Vermont you never know what you're gonna get, and J-Peak is in elevation, so it gets a lot more snow. Not sure why, but it feels like there's always a cloud hovering over J-Peak, and it was not different on race day. It was raining and about 5 degrees Celsius, so just over freezing point. Not sure exactly what it is in Fahrenheit, but super cold. And the thing that made it colder is that you start from J-Peak, and right at the start you go down 300 meters of elevation, and that's actually the first thing I want to talk about this course. It was for sure one of the craziest gravel start I ever did. So we were going down a golf course and we were really going in and out of it. So we would either go down on the golf track or straight into mudslides. Luckily, I was very well placed. My goal was to create an early selection in that sector, and that's what I did. So the mudslide were actually a little bit better. When you're far back behind, every rider was kind of destroying it a little bit more. So it was really unrideable towards the end, but for us, most of it was rideable. We had to run like one section. And at the bottom of it, I was in a group of 5, and I really decided to take the race by the horn. So I started pushing the pace like crazy. To me, that was kind of perfect. I feel like those races where I have the responsibility to make it hard because I'm stronger than most people, the earlier I start, the better, especially when it's that short of a race. So our lead group was 5 riders, and all the other riders were either mountain bikers or cyclocross rider, and luckily Alexis Cartier was able to bridge up to us, so that really increased my confidence for our group, because I know how strong Alexis is, especially on flat terrain. And that was really the deciding moment, I would say, because they were a good 12 to 15 chase group, really well organized, chasing us. And for 20K, the gap was staying between 10 and 20 seconds. So we would look back and see them super, super close. But I knew we kind of had to give it all because of how short the race was. And at like 30K after the start, you have a really nice, I wouldn't say false flat, it's about 5%. And I knew that was where I really needed to push the pace. So I went to the front and did a very, very hard 5 minute. And at the top of it, it was only me and Alexis. And then I knew it would be a 2-guy race. I was pretty confident in both of us working well together. And that's actually what we did. And we just starting trading really beautiful pole, talking in French, really good chemistry. And we just increased our gap to about 2 minutes over the chaser. And then we hit the final climb of the day. So it was actually one of the hardest finish also in the gravel race. So it was a 20 to 30 minute climb depending on the condition. And the higher you get to the climb, the softer it gets because there is snow around. So at the bottom of the climb, I was confident I could gap Alexis. So I figured that around 400 watts for 20 to 25 minutes at the end of the race would probably be enough to increase the gap. And on top of the long climb, that's exactly what happened. I had a gap of about 1:30, and then it gets crazy from there. You have 10K to go, but they're not like a small task. So there's mudslide, you go in and out of snow. This finish with a lot of people would have been crazy, most likely a lot of running, because the only way you're able to ride your bike through most of those sections is because you can choose your line. So if you're more than 2 or 3, it would for sure get more and more challenging. But I was able to navigate it without any error and cross the line about a minute in front of Alexis. After the race, we decided to do an extra loop around J Peak to give us a training that resembled a little bit more the bigger gravel race that are always around 5 to 7 hours. So all that extra loop plus the race overall gave me an intensity factor of 0.789, a total training stress score of 357 TSS, and a total of just under 6,000 calorie burn. The number one takeaway from the race is to make it happen, but in a smart way. So I touch on this a little bit during the race report. When you're the favorite or one of the favorite, you kind of have the responsibility to make it hard, but that comes with a very high danger, because if you don't do it like super smartly, you're most likely going to fatigue yourself more than you fatigue the other. So the goal as one of the strongest racer is really to make it hard from the beginning, because the longer you wait, the more your risk of letting the race play to luck, and that can actually reduce your chance of winning. So in that race, my strategy was very clear. I would use the very technical 3K downhill to really try to make the selection right away. And that's actually what happened. So it was perfect. So that's why I really committed to making it hard right after that selection. And let's say it would have come back on me, I would have been okay to wait for the last climb. So I was willing to make it hard, but to a certain point. Like if they would have catch us before the last climb, I was not willing to continue to kill myself before the last climb, because then I would most likely have shot myself in the foot. So make it hard, but make sure that you choose where you make it hard smartly, so you're not fatiguing yourself more than you're fatiguing other racers. So now let's go to this week's energy tip. So this week is about eating enough. I've started working with Plaisir Gastronomique. They're a company here in Quebec that makes food. And I've just finished my Unbound training block. And I would say that Plaisir Gastronomique was actually crucial to it, because when I ride for, let's say, 6 or 7 hours during the day, it's actually really hard for me to eat enough, and having tasty food and healthy food is super important. But the thing that is actually, I would say, maybe more important is the tasty part, because you need to eat enough. And when you need to take in 5,000 calories, taste is super important. And as you know, making tasty food, if you cook it from scratch, can be long and challenging. So having Plaisir Gastronomique is kind of a game changer, I would say. So most of the time what I do, they make pre-cook meat. So I use that and I pair it with a carb source. So potato, rice, pasta, and I add also vegetable on top of the meat. The good thing is that I get a full meal that doesn't take me too long, because cooking the rice, cooking the potato, cooking the vegetable, it's kind of a no-brainer. It goes fast. I know what to do. But the meat is always the complicated thing to make it good. But with Plaisir Gastronomique, I'm sure that the meat is already super tasty. So that saves me time, but also allows me to meet my calorie need day after day when I'm training super hard. So I encourage you to try to find a strategy that makes cooking easier, especially when you're training more than 20 hours during the week. Now let's switch to this week book suggestion. This week the book is The Daily Law by Robert Greene. I actually read most of Robert Greene's books, and I would say that this one is a very, very good start, because it kind of takes all his previous book and put it into one, so you kind of get a summary of all the other books. So I guess it can be a very good starter or a very good finisher. As usual, I'm going to tell you the 3 quotes that really stand out to me in this book. So the first one is, "Do not envy those who seems to be naturally gifted. It is often a curse, as such types rarely learn the value of diligence and focus, and they pay for this later in life." The second one is, "Men are more ready to repay an injury than a benefit, because gratitude is a burden and revenge a pleasure. Whenever you can, bury the hatchet with an enemy and make a point of putting him in your service." And the last one is, "Find a master to apprentice under. But instead of thinking about how much they can give you, think about how you can help them with their work." So now let's switch to the technology that enhance my work. We're gonna do the Belgian Wall for Ride California bike check. If you want to know more about my Rasputitsa bike, you can actually check out episode 3 of The Optimal Athlete. I use the exact same setup as I use at Mid-South. So if you're curious about this one, just go listen, watch, or read the Optimal Athlete episode 3. But for now, I want to focus on the Belgian Wall for Ride California bike check. As I said previously, this race is very, very tricky, because 60% of it is road and the rest is single track. So having the right setup is very tricky, and I really think I had the right one. So here's the bike check. Hey, it's Adam. We're at BWR, California, and I'm gonna be using the brand new Felt VR. They just came out with this bike 1 week ago. One thing I want to tell you about is I was able to fit a 40mm tire. It's a RC by Pirelli. I'm using the DT Swiss ERC 1100. Those wheels are super light, but also very heavy duty. As you can see, all Shimano. I have GRX at the back because I want the clutch, because it's gonna be very bumpy out there. And I have the Dura Ace at the front because I need a little bit more gear, because there's a lot of road and I need all the speed I can have. It's Vision at the front and FSA at the back. And to hold my bottle, I have the Silka bottle cage. This course is called the most unique gravel course in the US, and it's kind of funny because there is no gravel. It's about 40% single track and 60% road. So it's always a challenge to find the right equipment, but I'm really confident I have the right one for tomorrow. So now let's go to the AR note to self. So this week's mindset training is about embracing the unknown. So as usual, I'm just gonna explain it to you real simply right now, but I encourage you to go read it on the blog. I think it's more complete and maybe more clear as a written form. What I propose to you is really straightforward. It is to approach every situation as objectively as possible, so to not be caught into idealistic or catastrophic thinking. So to try to let all your desires and assumptions behind you when you enter a situation. By the way, desire plus assumption equal expectation. So every expectation that you have going into something is gonna shape the way you experience it. So in my mind, the more objective you can be in every situation is your best ally to respond to it optimally. I know it's hard, but if you can be as objective as possible when you enter something, so enter something with as few judgment as possible, if you pair this objectivity with your constant commitment to arete. If you don't know what arete means, arete just means the best possible response you can give in every moment. So if you pair objectivity with arete, I truly believe this is the best way to get the best outcome out of any given situation. So finally, the little bonus, as usual, is the album that I listen to the most on the bike. And I'm not gonna try to pronounce the artist's name. I apologize. I really was not familiar with this artist, and I discovered her latest works, Tiger's Blood. And I don't know if it's a situational thing, but I started listening to it on a training camp in Malibu, and I was literally listening to it on every climb, and now it just puts me in a crazy good mood. It's an Americana album. I don't know that type of music, so it's hard for me to say if it's good or not, but I really love it, so I guess for me it's very good. So that's about it for the Optimal Athlete episode 5. As usual, I really appreciate your time and thank you for listening until the end. I am trying to improve this content, so let me know if you have any advice for me. And as usual, take care of yourself by making the most optimal choice in every moment, and do the same to take care of the ones you love. Bye.